Forgive me, but I have to tell you a little something you may not know. Yes, Kathy is the understudy for Sutton Foster. She's also what's known as a swing. Kathy, when she turned up for work at 12 o'clock, could have played any of 8 roles. 8 roles. It happened to be the leading lady. Found out at 12 noon today, and at 1 o'clock, she had her very first rehearsal as Marion Peru.
Any Broadway star will tell you swings are the hardest working and most versatile people in the business. Their role tonight could be totally different come tomorrow. But as they say, the show must go on, and swings make it happen. Let's send it out to Paul Wontorek.
That's right, Tamsen. When Hugh Jackman paid tribute to Music Man understudy Kathy Voytko, the video went viral. I sat down with Kathy, Aramie Payton, who moonwalks and stands by as the king of pop in MJ, and longtime Wicked Elphaba standby Jenny DiNoia to find out more about these pros that make sure the show always goes on. You know, there's been a lot of attention these days on the hardworking standbys and understudies and swings that keep Broadway moving, and the three of you are doing incredible work every week on Broadway, covering some amazing roles, so I'm thrilled to talk to you all about it.
Thank you.
Let me just introduce everybody. Now, Jenny, you are the standby for Elphaba in Wicked. You may have heard of it. The green girl.
Yes.
You have done this role for a real long time, on and off. In fact, when you look at your Wikipedia page, it's actually kind of hard to follow.
I know.
All of the different companies.
I can't really remember. It's all like meshed together.
Yeah, there's a lot of green makeup, a lot of Glindas.
Yes, a lot of Glindas.
And you are actually back at the Gershwin now, covering Elphaba again. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Kathy, you are over at the Winter Garden Theater. You are an understudy for 3 roles, including Marion,
Yes.
the librarian,
Yes.
Marion Peru, and so you're covering for
A couple pick-a-littles, and then I cover a couple ensemble people.
some real crazy character ladies, and then the ingenue.
And then they accidentally slapped me on for a 10-year-old one day, so I just do what they ask me to do.
And this is what Broadway is like these days.
Yes.
And you've actually done many gigs on Broadway as an understudy, as a swing, as a standby. So
Yes,
you have
been
a lot
lucky.
of experience.
Been lucky to be working on the Broadway.
Aramie, you are welcome to Broadway.
Thank you.
You are a newcomer to the Broadway scene.
Yeah.
You are at the Neil Simon Theater. You are covering both the roles of MJ and Michael in MJ the Musical, which means you're middle and older Michael Jackson.
Yes.
You say that you cover him from age 13 to 33?
Yes. So that's the span between the middle Michael character is from 13 to about 22, and then the adult Michael is 33.
All 3 of you have such great stories, but you all have this sort of in common, this ability to step in, sometimes at a moment's notice. This has always been a part of this industry and sort of a really unique thing about theater. And I think that it's been interesting in especially the last year, there's really been a huge spotlight on the work you do.
Previously, people knew there were understudies. People might have heard of a standby. They rarely heard of a swing.
Right.
Very fortunately for us in the industry, Hugh Jackman made a big speech.
So you actually had a very big moment because you were understudying multiple roles, as we talked about, including Sutton Foster. Early on, when the Music Man started, how
Fourth
deep?
preview.
Fourth preview. Sutton tested positive and announced it, and you went on with how much rehearsal had you had up to that moment?
Maybe 2 music rehearsals during the rehearsal process, but that was just me and the music director in a room for 45 minutes, just going over the music. Everything else was self-study, independent study. As a swing, you're not up there generally with the cast. You're sort of doing a lot of homework, taking a lot of notes, and doing a lot of memorizing just with your eyeballs.
Yeah.
And so I was at a costume fitting at 11 in the morning, and 11:45, the PSM called me and said, "You're on for Marion."
Wow.
And I said, okay. And he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I'd like to run through the show in order," because a lot of times when you're on it at the last minute, they'll say, "Okay, we're going to do this big number, and we're going to do this big number," and let the cast go take a break. But I said I didn't know the show well enough at that point to do it out of order. And everybody showed up, and by noon, I was at the theater. By 1, everybody else was there, and we ran through the show, and then kind of on a spit and a prayer,
Wow.
it went well. And Hugh made a ridiculously kind speech at the end of the show and pulled every swing that was on, and there were 5 of 5 swings and or covers on for roles that night. 4th preview, that's unheard of,
Right.
but COVID took us out.
Yeah.
And he brought up the fact that there are swings, and I can't tell you, people who've known me for 20 years said, wait a minute, what's a swing? What do you do? So I'm thrilled that he just brought the conversation to a national level. Like, oh, we've always been here, but I'm grateful to you that he brought some knowledge to the general public that exists.
And Aramie, you actually, I saw on your Instagram, because you covered 2 different eras of Michael Jackson's life, there was one day, and maybe this has happened more than once, where you actually did, like, I think you did the matinee as the older Michael, and then the evening as the middle Michael.
And it just happened again like about 2 weeks ago, or maybe 1 week ago. This time they checked in, they're like, is this gonna be okay? Do you wanna just stick to one for the day? I'm like, no, give me I like the change up. They're very different from each other. And the way that they work in the show, it's nice to like go into the more ensemble world, and then also to bounce back into like, okay, well, I'm driving this show. And in the head, it's like, woo, which Michael am I? You know, am I 13 or 30?
There must be moments also when you're on stage and you're watching other people do the roles you also know. It seems impossible to figure out how to keep track of all this information. So many things.
I often liken it to a chessboard. If you know that this is how the queen moves, then you know that this is how the pawn moves. Wow. So once you know a couple characters in a show, you know, oh, well, I'm going to see Aramie goes down right at this moment, and that's when I know to go left. So it's you can't look at it like I'm learning all of these people. You have to look at it like I'm learning 2 or 3, and then the other pieces sort of fall together.
Learning the world, how it exists and how it moves with me out of it in any capacity was what helped me. Just visualizing it completely and seeing what it does, so that if I did have to get thrown in a spot, I'm like, oh, I'm used to seeing this picture.
Later on, once you've locked in your tracks, you're like, oh, I know that this person's gonna fly by me right now. Like, and you kind of have that spatial awareness.
It's a specific skill set.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it gets easier the more you do it, I would say.
Yeah.
Now, Jenny, you started in Wicked in Chicago, I believe, the Chicago sit-down production. You started as
A swing.
As a swing, right? So, what did that mean? How many crazy costumes of the denizens of Oz did you have to know how to fit into?
I knew all 9 female ensemble tracks, and I didn't understudy Alphabet or
Right.
Melissa
That
at
came
time.
later.
That came later, yeah.
So how did that sort of transition into knowing the lead role and then eventually getting to cover the lead role, and then you got to cover it on Broadway and then do it, and then you had a full year on Broadway in the role as well?
Well, so I was a swing for about 1.5 years in total, but about 6 months in, we had our understudy who injured themselves and needed to be out of the show for like 6 or 7 weeks. And at that time, there wasn't like a pool of people to call. I auditioned, I became the emergency cover.
Yeah, actually, it's so funny when you read the history, your career history, a lot of it talks about being an emergency. Yeah. There's always like a lot of Alphabet emergencies.
I'm like the emergency
You need an Alphabet.
Alphabet.
Is there like a bat phone, like a big green phone in your house that rings?
Yeah, I am the emergency Alphabet, I
That's
think,
amazing.
or I have been for a long time.
How fast can you get into green?
I've gotten ready in 7 minutes before.
Oh my gosh!
Well, that's not me. I mean, that's the
remarkable.
team. That's the green
Yeah.
team making me ready.
Aramie, what's it like for you to be a part of Broadway now? And you've been doing a lot of theater over the last few years, and you've been off Broadway and you've been on the road.
Yeah.
But being in a Broadway community at this time, what is it like to be a part of the MJ company? It's obviously been a very exciting time for the show as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of mixed feelings, right? Because I'm here, so it's something I've been working for a long, long time, and just to be on Broadway and to be welcomed into the community in such a ferocious way, it seems like we're being celebrated heavily, and lots of success to the team and everybody that's working on the show. So it's really cool to kind of be thrust into the community, and it's vivacious. It's like a renaissance, it feels like, and so for me, it's really exciting to be a part of a cast that's full of so many Black performers and artists. It's really nice to see that like reflected across Broadway right now. So I feel kind of honored to be a part of that and ushering that in, and hoping that that's how it continues to be like representative of all kinds of people. Yeah, it feels special, but I'm still like, I'm still in pinch me moment.
Kathy, when you have a resume like yours, where I feel like you've you're probably kind of known as someone who's really good at this within the industry, right? I mean, when I look at like...
The first time I did any standing by was, I stood by for Stephanie Black and the Pirate Queen.
Right.
And I just thought that was a really fun job because it was this humongous Boulevard and Schomburg show, and we did it in Chicago for a couple months, and we came here for a couple months, and I thought that was really fun. At the time, though, I was desperately trying to get pregnant, and I was like, that'd be great. I'll be an offstage cover, and if I have morning sickness, well, I didn't get pregnant during that time, and but then I stood by for Mare and Maisie and Next to Normal. I found that didn't stress me out. So standing by never stressed me out. I didn't find that to be, I know I had a girlfriend who said, I can't do it because every single day I go, how am I gonna do it if I have to go on? And I didn't feel that way. And I was like, oh, maybe this suits me. But yes, I've been lucky to do it a lot.
Yeah.
And then I'll go do a role somewhere and then I'll say, yes, you need to stand by? Absolutely. So I don't know, it's a weird...
I never thought that it might take a unique constitution of a person to actually be able to handle the... Do you both feel like you kind of have that as well?
Yeah, I always feel just super grateful to be working, especially after the 2 years of
2 years
being
of
off.
nothingness. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm always learning, especially as a standby or a swing or understudy. You're on with different people all the time, so it's you have to be so aware and present. And I just learn something new every time I'm in the show.
I like that too, that when you're on, the people who are the regular players, sometimes they dig that too because they're like, oh, this is a whole different energy, or you delivered that line slightly differently and it made me giggle, or whatever. Like it's gratifying in a different way because everyone's sort of on their toes in a different way, and it's fun.
I used to always hear people say to me, like, don't Broadway performers get bored doing the same thing every night? But I haven't heard that in the last year.
No.
There's a lot of attention about how different it is every night.
I love that feeling that's kind of lurking, where you like, even if you're just hearing like playback of the show that's happening while it's going on, or you're being able to watch what's going on, you can see the actors on stage, and you're just kind of like aware of if something could happen, or just being like on your toes, but knowing that you kind of have to like jump in and help. I hate the phrase like save the show or anything like that, but you know what I mean. But you get to help make sure that things go well, and you get to help keep things intact. And I think it displays like your compassion in a different way. I don't know. For me, I love the community aspect of theater, so it gives me that chance to be like, I'm a part of this community, or I contribute to this community, even if it's for this moment.
I'm tickled to hear you say that you don't like that phrase either.
You know, yeah.
I don't like that because I feel like my best day at work is if I jump in and somebody who hadn't opened their program doesn't even know that anybody different is in the show. Sure. That's my best day at work. So saving it feels like the wrong word. It feels like you just allowed it to be.
Yeah. That actually leads me to a question, because obviously there's blocking and choreography that you have to follow. But do you feel like you're allowed to sort of find your own way into the roles as well? I feel like there is more freedom to do that than maybe historically I used to hear there once was. Do you feel that?
I feel like there's like I always see it like a box, and you can kind of move your way through that box, but there's, the structure of like what the show is and the story.
Have this much wiggle room in the framework they've set out.
Yeah. But I think, at least at Wicked, like they encourage us to be in the moment as ourselves through the character, so.
Well, and I can tell you that Hugh is an evil, evil person, and he likes to tickle you and crack you up on stage.
Oh my gosh.
So he will oftentimes go a little out of the box just for
He doesn't want it to
fun.
be the same every day.
No, so it keeps you on your toes for sure.
Forget about whatever actor whose role you're doing that night, but you're also, you're walking in, everyone walks into Wicked with a certain idea of what Elphaba sounds like. A lot of it comes from Idina Menzel and a cast album, or maybe who they've seen in the past. Marion has a very interesting, history that this production kind of breaks against a little bit, right? Makes her, she's a little more fun than she's ever been before. But you have the extra pressure. Not only Miles Frost, who just won a Tony Award for playing MJ, he's doing that, he's fantastic. But you also have to nail
an icon.
It's not an impersonation, it's really like, you really have to bring out this icon, and audiences have to buy that, and you don't have every night to nail that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You haven't been doing it every night because it gets easier, I'm sure, the longer you do it.
Yeah.
That's a crazy amount of pressure.
It is. I welcome it, actually. I don't know what it is. Maybe this is my, like, you know, crazy side popping out, but I think it gave me such a large task as an actor I love character work. I love like the study of like the actual human. And so for me, as a Michael Jackson fan and then as an actor, to come into this thing where I get this really specific, at least it's specific in people's minds, like we all have our specific idea of Michael. Having that pressure allowed me to refine my character a lot more. When I booked the job, I was excited, but I was like, whew, it's Michael, whew, okay, you know, but then
What about he?
You know, and then maybe I didn't do he as well. But, you know, to have the pandemic time to really like sit and listen to the music even more so than I was already doing it, and to really like start building on my own. So once I step into the room, whether I'm being rehearsed or not, I've already gotten some of those tools in my back pocket. But the task makes me excited. The task is like a big deal, but it like, I don't know, I feel like it strengthens me in some way, you know?
I love that.
And I
So
hope you see it and agree. If you see it, then you're like, you don't sound anything like Michael.